I tried to warn everyone. I tried to tell you all exactly what was coming, but clearly some people weren't listening. Jimmy Haslam is not playing games anymore, and what we're witnessing right now in Cleveland is nothing short of a complete organizational revolution. The owner of the Cleveland Browns has apparently reached his breaking point with being the laughingstock of the NFL, and he's doing something about it with extreme prejudice. Jimmy Haslam is systematically removing every single saboteur from the building, clearing out anyone who even remotely smells suspicious, anyone who might have been part of the problem, anyone who could potentially stand in the way of Shedeur Sanders becoming the franchise quarterback this organization desperately needs. And the latest victim of this ruthless purge? Bailey Zappe. That's right, Jimmy Haslam has officially fired and allowed Bailey Zappe to move on, clearing out the quarterback room in spectacular fashion, and the message being sent is louder than 1,000 air horns going off simultaneously. Remember all those people who were trying to say Bailey Zappe should be the #2 quarterback over Shedeur Sanders? Remember all those so-called experts who were pushing the narrative that Zappe deserved a roster spot, that he brought veteran experience, that he could be a reliable backup? Jimmy Haslam heard all of that noise, processed it, and decided he was having absolutely none of it. Instead, he happily helped Bailey Zappe get employed elsewhere. Beat it, Bailey Zappe. We are not playing games in Cleveland anymore. The quarterback room is being cleaned, sanitized, and rebuilt around Shedeur Sanders. And if you're not part of the solution, you're getting shown the door faster than you can say practice squad. This isn't just about one backup quarterback getting released. This is about an owner finally taking control of his franchise, making the tough decisions that need to be made, and refusing to allow the same old dysfunction that has plagued this organization for decades to continue poisoning the well. Jimmy Haslam is drawing a line in the sand, and that line is crystal clear. We have our franchise quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, and everything else is going to be built around supporting him, developing him, and giving him every possible resource to succeed. If you can't contribute to that mission, if you're going to be a distraction, if you're going to create unnecessary competition or drama, you're gone. Simple as that. The news broke and sent shockwaves through the NFL community. Former Browns quarterback signs with a new team. You're absolutely right, he signed with a new team, because Jimmy Haslam was not about to allow Bailey Zappe to come back to the Cleveland Browns under any circumstances. The hierarchy in Cleveland is now set in stone, carved in granite, and absolutely non-negotiable. Quarterback 1 is Shedeur Sanders, the future of this franchise, the player this entire organization is being built around. Quarterback 2 is Deshaun Watson, who still has guaranteed money on his contract and can serve as a veteran presence in the room. And the third stringer, the guy who can bring in Dunkin' Donuts and coffees for everybody, is 5'0" Dillon Gabriel, who we pray to every deity that exists never has to see the field in a meaningful game situation. There's no space for you, Bailey Zappe. Not anymore. Not in this new Cleveland Browns organization that's finally getting serious about winning football games. The official announcement confirmed what everyone already suspected. Former Cleveland Browns quarterback Bailey Zappe was signed by the New York Jets to a reserve futures contract on Monday. Zappe just completed his 4th NFL season out of Western Kentucky, and he spent the majority of the 2025 campaign on Cleveland's practice squad. So it looks like the New York Jets are locking in Bailey Zappe to be on their practice squad or training camp roster, whichever category he falls into. Good for him. He's going to have an opportunity there. But the key point is that opportunity is not in Cleveland, and that's exactly how Jimmy Haslam wanted it. Originally selected by the New England Patriots in the 4th round of the 2022 draft, Zappe appeared in 15 career games with 9 starts. He started 1 game in the season finale for Cleveland in 2024. His career statistics show 12 touchdowns and 14 interceptions in 15 games. Those are not the numbers of a quarterback you build around. Those are not the numbers of someone who deserves to be taking reps away from your franchise quarterback. Those are the numbers of a journeyman backup who served a temporary purpose and has now outlived his usefulness to the organization. Bailey Zappe is officially off this team, and I told you all that Jimmy Haslam is not playing games. The owner of the Cleveland Browns is deadly serious when it comes to building around number 12, Shedeur Sanders. He's trying to get the right people in place, the right infrastructure established, the right culture developed, to get this thing going in the right direction. Jimmy Haslam knows he has must-see television in Shedeur Sanders. He understands that he has something special on his hands, a generational talent at the quarterback position, and now it's time to maximize that asset rather than squander it the way this organization has squandered so many opportunities in the past. The timing of this move is particularly telling. This isn't happening in a vacuum. This is part of a coordinated effort to clean house, remove all the dead weight, eliminate all the potential problems, and create a quarterback room that makes sense for where this franchise is heading. Bailey Zappe represented the old way of doing things, the Cleveland Browns of the past, who collected random quarterbacks without any coherent plan or vision. The new Cleveland Browns under Jimmy Haslam's direct intervention have a clear plan, and Bailey Zappe wasn't part of it. Now let's talk about what's happening at the college level and how it impacts the Browns' plans for building around Shedeur Sanders. The big news recently was that Dante Moore decided to return to college instead of entering the NFL draft, which completely reshuffles the quarterback landscape for teams looking to add talent at the position. Over at UCSS, the analysts were discussing how Dante Moore no longer being in the draft changes everything and how it could potentially affect what the Browns' quarterback room looks like going forward. The analyst laid out the situation perfectly. Dante Moore is returning to college, which means that there are very limited options at the top of the draft for teams in need of a quarterback. With the news that Dante Moore is out, that could slide Ty Simpson up into the number 2 spot if teams like the Jets are desperate for a quarterback. It takes one pawn off the chessboard, and suddenly the entire draft board looks different than everyone expected just a few weeks ago. The UCSS panel then dove into predictions for what the Browns quarterback room will look like in 2026, and this is where things get really interesting. They put all the names up on the board. Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, insert rookie quarterback, insert free agent or trade partner. The host asked each panelist what they thought the final composition would be, and the responses reveal everything you need to know about where this franchise is heading. The first panelist, Tyus, gave his prediction and showed exactly the kind of thinking that needs to be eliminated from this organization. He said he believes Shedeur will be there, believes Deshaun Watson will be there, thinks those two are guarantees. So far, so good. But then he suggested they've seen enough of Dillon Gabriel and will probably move on from him. Again, reasonable, but then he said he would personally get a veteran quarterback in there just for competition. This is where the logic completely falls apart. Why would you bring in another veteran quarterback when you already have Deshaun Watson on the roster? What purpose does that serve except to create unnecessary competition, confuse the quarterback room, waste roster spots, and potentially undermine Shedeur Sanders' development? The other panelist immediately called this out, asking the obvious question. If you believe Watson's going to be part of the competition, then why would you need another veteran? There's just no point to that. It's the kind of muddled thinking that got the Browns into this mess in the first place. The discussion continued with Tyus defending his position, suggesting they could bring in 2 veterans and run with 4 quarterbacks again, referencing the Andy Dalton situation. But the other panelists weren't having it. They pointed out that running with 4 quarterbacks worked out so terribly the last time, why would anyone want to repeat that disaster? If the Browns are going to keep Deshaun Watson, which they have to because of his contract, then there's no need to bring in another veteran. Watson is already the veteran in the room, and he and Shedeur have a good relationship. You keep those 2 guys, period. Then the conversation turned to the possibility of drafting another rookie quarterback, and this is where things get absolutely ridiculous. One panelist mentioned Drew Aller as someone they might take in the 4th or 5th round because he has the measurables, the big strong arm, and could potentially develop in Cleveland's weather conditions. The immediate response from another panelist was perfect and brutally honest. Drew Aller is hot garbage. Sorry, but Drew Aller is hot garbage. That's not being mean, that's not being unfair, that's just stating observable reality. Another name that came up was John Mateer, who one panelist described as a poor man's Baker Mayfield. Think about that for a second. Baker Mayfield, who the Browns already tried and ultimately moved on from, and now people are suggesting they should draft a worse version of him? The logic doesn't logic. It makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. This is when G. Bush jumped into the conversation and absolutely demolished everyone with facts and truth. His point was simple but devastating. Shedeur has got more upside than any of these guys you're going to draft, so give him a chance. If he stinks, if Shedeur is the worst quarterback in football, then the Browns are going to have a high pick next year and can reassess. But drafting another quarterback right now, wasting resources on someone who isn't as good as Shedeur Sanders, that's organizational malpractice. G. Bush then went through the entire list of quarterback prospects and systematically destroyed each one. He started with the disclaimer that he doesn't have to tell everyone that Jackson Dart or Cam Ward are garbage just to say he still believes in Shedeur Sanders. You can do two things at once. Acknowledge that some prospects are decent, while also recognizing that none of them are better than what the Browns already have. He mentioned that he thinks Jackson Dart could go to the Raiders and be a good fit, that Dart has a chance to be a good quarterback in the right system. Fine, that's a reasonable take. But then he turned his attention to the rest of the quarterback class, Ty Simpson, Quinn Ewers, Drew Aller, Carson Beck, and John Mateer, and delivered the knockout blow. They ain't better than Shedeur Sanders. Let's call a spade right now. Let's not inflate these guys' abilities. Let's look at what they actually did on the field. Ty Simpson looked nasty in his last 3 or 4 games. Drew Aller has never been good, not one time at Penn State. People kept waiting for him to break out, waiting for that elite season that would justify the hype. Drew Aller this year? Nah, didn't do nothing. Drew Aller again didn't do nothing. He's nice, he's tall, he looks the part, he's got a strong arm, but besides that, what can you actually point to in terms of production? G. Bush broke it down perfectly. He can't give you Drew Aller's production. He can't give you the way Drew Aller played in big games. He can't even give you the fact that this guy looks confident when he's playing against regular competition. Shedeur Sanders is better than all of those guys, 2 through 6 on the board. He's better than every single one of them. The host tried to push back, asking who on the panel actually said Shedeur wasn't better than those prospects. But G. Bush clarified he was speaking to the broader narrative, the general conversation happening in media and among fans who keep trying to suggest the Browns should draft another quarterback. He was setting the record straight for everyone listening, not just the people on the panel. Then G. Bush dropped another truth bomb about how people keep trying to prognosticate what the quarterback situation is going to be and keep ending up wrong. He reminded everyone about all the guys who were supposedly going to be top quarterback prospects at the beginning of the season. The Cade Klubniks, the Sam Darnolds who transferred, the Leonard Moores, all these quarterbacks who were eliminated from consideration after the first 2 months of the season. Then the narrative switched to it being just Jackson Dart and Dante Moore. Then Dante Moore went back to school. The reality, as G. Bush has been saying all along, is that none of these guys are better than Shedeur Sanders. The other panelist jumped in to give G. Bush his props, and rightfully so. G. Bush has been spot on about these quarterback prospects in college, letting everyone know that these dudes are not good. They're not better than Shedeur, and he's been proven right over and over again. He's been watching the games, doing the actual analysis, not just repeating talking points or going with popular narratives. The Cade Klubniks and all those other hyped prospects fell off within 3 or 4 weeks. They were off draft boards, gone, forgotten. Meanwhile, everyone was hyping them up, talking about the quarterback class of 2026 being so strong and deep. Nasty work, as the kids say. This entire conversation reveals something crucial about what's happening in Cleveland. Jimmy Haslam is cutting through all the noise, all the bad advice, all the conventional wisdom that has failed this franchise repeatedly, and he's making decisions based on one simple principle. We have our franchise quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, and we're going to support him, not undermine him, by constantly bringing in competition or hedging our bets with unnecessary draft picks. The Bailey Zappa firing is symbolic of this new approach. Zappa wasn't a bad guy. He wasn't a cancer in the locker room. He was just unnecessary, a relic of the old way of doing things. And Jimmy Haslam decided there was no room for unnecessary pieces anymore. Every roster spot matters. Every decision about the quarterback room sends a message. And the message Jimmy Haslam is sending is unmistakable. Shedeur Sanders is our guy, and if you're not here to help him succeed, you're not here at all. This is what great organizations do when they finally get serious about winning. They make tough decisions. They cut loose players who might be perfectly fine in other contexts, but don't fit the vision. They refuse to waste resources on redundancies or backup plans that undermine the main plan. The Browns are betting big on Shedeur Sanders, and they're removing every possible obstacle to that bet paying off. The quarterback room in Cleveland is now crystal clear. Shedeur Sanders is the starter, the franchise quarterback, the future. Deshaun Watson is the veteran backup who has guaranteed money and can provide experience and mentorship. Dillon Gabriel is the third stringer who hopefully never sees the field but can run the scout team and help in practice. That's it. That's the whole room. No Bailey Zappe creating unnecessary depth chart questions. No random veteran being brought in to compete. No wasted draft pick on a quarterback prospect who isn't as good as Shedeur. Just a clean, simple, logical quarterback room built around developing the franchise quarterback. This clarity is incredibly valuable and something the Browns have lacked for basically their entire modern existence. For decades, the Browns have operated with muddled thinking about the quarterback position, constantly hedging their bets, bringing in too many guys, creating unnecessary competition, confusing everyone about who the actual quarterback of the future is supposed to be. That era is over. Jimmy Haslam has ended it with extreme prejudice, and Bailey Zappe is just the latest casualty of this new approach. Looking at the broader NFL landscape, the Browns are actually in an enviable position right now. Most teams picking at the top of the draft are desperate for quarterbacks and are going to reach for prospects who aren't as good as Shedeur Sanders. The Browns don't have to play that game. They don't have to talk themselves into Drew Aller or reach for Ty Simpson or waste a pick on John Mateer. They can use their draft capital to build around Shedeur, to get him weapons, to improve the offensive line, to add defensive pieces that will help the team win games. This is the advantage of already having your franchise quarterback. You don't have to keep spinning the wheel, hoping you hit on someone, wasting high picks on prospects who flame out. The Browns found their guy in Shedeur Sanders, and now they can focus on everything else. That's a massive competitive advantage, and it's an advantage that only exists because Jimmy Haslam finally decided to stop the madness and commit fully to one quarterback. The Bailey Zappe move also sends a message to everyone else in the organization and around the league. The Browns are serious this time. They're not playing games. They're not collecting quarterbacks like Pokemon cards. They have a plan, they're executing that plan, and anyone who doesn't fit into that plan is going to be shown the door regardless of who they are or what their contract looks like. That kind of ruthless clarity is what winning organizations have, and it's what the Browns have been missing for far too long. For Shedeur Sanders personally, this has to be incredibly validating and reassuring. Imagine being a young quarterback trying to establish yourself in the NFL, and you're constantly looking over your shoulder, wondering if the team is going to bring in someone else, wondering if they really believe in you, wondering if one bad game is going to result in them moving in a different direction. That uncertainty can be paralyzing for young players. It can prevent them from playing with confidence, from taking the risks necessary to make big plays, from truly embracing their role as the franchise quarterback. But now Shedeur doesn't have to worry about any of that. The team has made it abundantly clear through their actions that he's the guy. They fired Kevin Stefanski, who was sabotaging him. They eliminated Tommy Rees, who was part of the sabotage. They're cleaning out the quarterback room of anyone who could create unnecessary competition or distraction. They're building the coaching staff around people who want to develop him rather than undermine him. Every single move the organization is making screams one message: Shedeur Sanders is our franchise quarterback, and we're all in on making him successful. That kind of organizational commitment is priceless for a young quarterback. It allows him to focus purely on football, on improving his game, on developing chemistry with his receivers, on learning the system, on becoming the best quarterback he can possibly be. He doesn't have to waste mental energy on politics or worry about his job security or wonder if the team really believes in him. They've shown him they believe in him through their actions, and actions speak louder than any words ever could. The firing of Bailey Zappe is also a warning to Dillon Gabriel, even though Gabriel is still on the roster for now. The message is clear. You're here as a third stringer, and you better embrace that role fully. If you start causing problems, if you start complaining about playing time, if you do anything to undermine Shedeur Sanders or create distractions, you'll be gone just as quickly as Bailey Zapp was. The Browns aren't going to tolerate anything that gets in the way of Shedeur's development, and that includes keeping around quarterbacks who might have inflated ideas about their role with the team.